Have you ever felt like the world has become too harsh for your gentle soul? Like everywhere you turn, there's conflict, judgment, and a profound lack of understanding that leaves you feeling isolated in your sensitivity. It's as if we're living in a world that increasingly rewards hardness, competition, and emotional detachment, while those who lead with empathy and openness find themselves vulnerable and often wounded. This experience isn't just uncomfortable, it can be deeply painful. A constant sensation of walking through a world covered in sharp edges while you've somehow lost your protective armor. I understand this feeling intimately. That sense that your natural inclination toward kindness, your desire to see the good in others, and your ability to feel deeply have become liabilities rather than strengths in today's fast-paced, often cynical world. It's like wearing your heart outside your chest in a place where hearts are seen as targets rather than treasures to be protected. The disconnection from your authentic self that occurs when you try to harden yourself to fit in creates a profound inner tension. You become a stranger to yourself in the attempt to navigate a world that seems increasingly hostile to gentleness. But what if there was another way? What if your sensitivity, your openness, and your natural empathy aren't weaknesses to overcome, but rather powerful gifts that the world desperately needs? What if there existed an approach to understanding human nature that validated and celebrated these qualities instead of dismissing them? This is where the profound wisdom of Carl Rogers offers us not just comfort, but a revolutionary perspective that could transform how you experience yourself and the world around you. The work of Carl Rogers emerged during a time when psychology was dominated by two major forces: Freudian psychoanalysis, which viewed human behavior as driven by unconscious forces and childhood experiences, and behaviorism, which reduced human complexity to observable behaviors that could be conditioned. Both approaches, in their own ways, presented rather mechanistic views of human nature. Into this landscape, Rogers introduced something radically different, a humanistic approach that placed profound trust in each person's innate capacity for growth, healing, and self-understanding. Rather than seeing people as broken machines to be fixed or analyzed, Rogers saw each individual as inherently whole, striving toward growth and fundamentally trustworthy. This perspective, revolutionary in its time and still powerful today, offers a refreshing counterbalance to our achievement-oriented, often judgmental culture. At the heart of Rogers' approach is the concept of unconditional positive regard, a way of relating to others that offers complete acceptance without judgment or conditions. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to be in the presence of someone who truly accepted you exactly as you are, with all your flaws, struggles, achievements, and potential. Someone who didn't need you to change, improve, or be different in any way to earn their respect and care. This isn't about blind approval of all behaviors, but rather a deep recognition of your inherent worth as a human being, completely separate from your actions or achievements. This radical acceptance is what Rogers believed was essential for psychological healing and growth, and what many sensitive souls desperately need in our performance-driven world. Alongside unconditional positive regard, Rogers emphasized the importance of empathy, the ability to truly understand another person's internal experience as if it were your own, while maintaining the awareness that it is not. This goes far beyond sympathy or feeling sorry for someone. It involves a deep, moment-by-moment tracking of another's emotional experience without judgment or interpretation. For those with naturally gentle souls, empathy often comes easily. You likely find yourself naturally tuning into others' emotional states, sometimes to the point where it becomes overwhelming. Rogers validated this sensitivity as not just normal but valuable, offering a framework where your natural empathic abilities become strengths rather than burdens. The third cornerstone of Rogers' approach is authenticity, or what he called congruence, the alignment between your inner experience and your outer expression. In a world full of masks and social performances, Rogers advocated for the courage to be real, to know yourself deeply, and to express that self honestly. For sensitive individuals who often feel pressure to hide their true feelings or to present a tougher exterior, this permission to be authentic can feel like finally being able to breathe after holding your breath for too long. Together, these three elements, unconditional positive regard, empathy, and authenticity, create what Rogers called the growth-promoting climate, the conditions under which people naturally move toward healing, self-understanding, and their fullest potential. I want to pause here for a moment and ask you, how often do you experience these conditions in your daily life? When was the last time you felt truly seen and accepted exactly as you are? How frequently do you feel understood at a deep level, without someone rushing to fix, advise, or judge you? These experiences can be rare in our fast-paced world, where efficiency often trumps connection, and quick solutions are valued over deep understanding. If you're finding it difficult to recall such moments, you're not alone. Many of us struggle to articulate these deeper emotional experiences because we so rarely have models for what healthy connection looks like. I'd like to invite you to share in the comments a moment when you felt particularly disconnected from others or from yourself, using the phrase, "I feel disconnected when." You don't need to write a lengthy explanation. Even a simple, honest reflection can be powerful. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read to feel less alone in their own experience. And remember, this community is built on the Rogerian principles we're discussing. Your sharing will be met with acceptance, not judgment. And now, continuing our exploration of how Rogers' ideas can help sensitive souls navigate a sometimes harsh world. Rogers believed that every person has what he called an actualizing tendency, an innate drive toward growth, healing, and the fulfillment of one's potential. Like a plant naturally growing toward the light, humans are naturally inclined toward psychological health when the right conditions are present. This view stands in stark contrast to perspectives that see human nature as fundamentally flawed or in need of rigid control. For sensitive people who have often been made to feel that there's something wrong with them for not being tougher or more competitive, this is a liberating perspective. Your sensitivity, according to Rogers, isn't a flaw to overcome, but potentially a gift that allows you to live more fully and authentically than those who have armored themselves against their own feelings. The challenge, of course, is that our modern world often doesn't provide the conditions that allow this natural growth process to unfold. From early childhood, many of us learn that certain feelings are unacceptable, certain needs won't be met, and certain aspects of ourselves must be hidden to receive love and approval. Rogers called these external demands conditions of worth, the implicit or explicit messages about what makes us worthy of love and acceptance. Over time, these conditions become internalized, creating what Rogers termed the ideal self, the person we believe we should be to be worthy, as opposed to the real self, who we actually are. For sensitive individuals, this gap between the ideal and real self can be particularly painful. You may have received messages that you're too emotional, too sensitive, or that you need to toughen up to succeed in the world. These messages can lead to a profound sense of alienation from yourself, as you try to suppress the very qualities that make you who you are. The process of healing, according to Rogers, involves closing this gap between the ideal self and the real self, not by becoming someone different, but by gradually allowing yourself to acknowledge, accept, and express your authentic experiences and feelings. This doesn't happen through intellectual insight alone, but through real relationships where you experience being fully seen and accepted. This is why Rogers placed such emphasis on the therapeutic relationship as a microcosm where this kind of healing could occur. The therapist's unconditional positive regard, empathy, and authenticity create a safe space where clients can gradually drop their defenses and reconnect with disowned aspects of themselves. But Rogers' vision extended far beyond the therapy room. He believed that these same principles could transform education, leadership, conflict resolution, and intimate relationships. Imagine a world where parents, teachers, managers, and partners approached each other with genuine curiosity, deep respect for autonomy, and trust in each person's inner wisdom. How different might our collective experience be? For sensitive souls navigating a sometimes harsh world, creating these kinds of Rogerian relationships in your own life can provide crucial islands of safety and authenticity in a sea of judgment and performance pressure. Finding even one person with whom you can be fully yourself, or learning to provide this kind of acceptance to yourself, can be transformative. One of Rogers' most radical contributions was his trust in each person's capacity to find their own answers. Unlike approaches that position the expert as the one with solutions to life's problems, Rogers believed that each individual, given the right supportive conditions, could access their own inner wisdom about what they needed to heal and grow. This doesn't mean that expertise isn't valuable, but rather that the most helpful kind of expertise is in creating conditions where a person's natural healing capacity can emerge, not in telling them what they should think, feel, or do. For sensitive people who have often been told that their natural responses to the world are somehow wrong or insufficient, This validation of inner experience can be revolutionary. Your feelings, far from being problems to overcome, are valuable signals giving you important information about your needs and boundaries. Learning to listen to and trust these internal signals, rather than constantly looking outside yourself for guidance on how to be, can lead to a more grounded and authentic way of moving through the world. This inner-directed approach stands in contrast to the external validation so many of us have been conditioned to seek: the likes, the promotions, the material markers of success that society holds up as evidence of worth. Rogers invites us instead to develop what he called an internal locus of evaluation, the ability to assess our experiences based on how they feel to us, rather than how they might appear to others or align with external standards of success. Developing this internal locus of evaluation doesn't happen overnight, especially if you've spent years looking outside yourself for validation and direction. It's a gradual process of tuning into your authentic responses and learning to trust them, even when they differ from what others might expect or want from you. For sensitive people, this often involves giving yourself permission to have boundaries, to say no when something doesn't feel right, and to honor your need for things like solitude, beauty, depth, and meaningful connection that might be dismissed as luxuries in our productivity-focused culture. Part of what makes Rogers' approach so valuable for sensitive people is that it offers a middle path between the extremes of either suppressing your sensitivity to fit in or becoming so overwhelmed by your emotions that you withdraw from engagement with the world. Through the practice of self-awareness and self-acceptance, you can learn to work with your sensitivity as a strength rather than fighting against it as a limitation. This might mean being selective about the environments and relationships you engage with, developing practices that help you process and integrate emotional experiences, and finding ways to express your unique gifts that don't require you to compromise your authenticity. It also means recognizing that your sensitivity gives you access to levels of nuance, beauty, and connection that enrich not just your life, but potentially the lives of those around you. Far from being a liability, your gentle soul might be precisely what's needed in a world that has become increasingly disconnected from deeper values and authentic human connection. Rogers' work challenges us to reconsider what we value as a society and as individuals. In a culture that often prizes achievement, productivity, and material success above all else, his emphasis on qualities like presence, authenticity, and deep connection offers a much-needed counterbalance. This isn't about rejecting achievement or success, but rather about expanding our definition of what a successful life looks like to include the quality of our relationships, our connection to ourselves, and our ability to live in alignment with our deepest values. For sensitive people who may never feel fully at home in highly competitive, impersonal environments, this broader perspective can be liberating. It suggests that your discomfort in such settings isn't a personal failing, but perhaps a valid response to environments that aren't conducive to genuine human flourishing. Rather than forcing yourself to adapt to such environments at the cost of your well-being, Rogers' approach might encourage you to seek or create contexts that better honor your need for meaning, depth, and authentic connection. This might involve making countercultural choices about your work, your living situation, or how you spend your time and energy. Choices that prioritize your inner sense of rightness over external metrics of success. Such choices aren't always easy in a world that may not understand or validate them, but they're essential for living a life that feels authentic and meaningful to you. One of Rogers' most hopeful insights was his recognition that personal growth and social change are deeply interconnected. As individuals become more authentic and self-accepting, they naturally create more genuine, respectful relationships with others. These relationships, in turn, create communities and eventually societies that are more aligned with basic human needs for autonomy, connection, and meaning. For sensitive people who often feel the pain of social disconnection and conflict particularly acutely, this perspective offers a way to channel your natural empathy and desire for harmony into meaningful action, rather than being overwhelmed by the world's problems or feeling that your sensitivity makes you too vulnerable to engage with difficult realities. You can see your capacity for deep feeling and connection as exactly what's needed to create positive change. This doesn't mean you have to become an activist in any traditional sense, though you might choose that path. It could simply mean bringing more authenticity, empathy, and acceptance into your everyday interactions, creating small ripples of change that extend outward in ways you might never fully see. It could mean using your natural attunement to others' emotions to bridge divides in your family, workplace, or community. Or it could mean creating art, writing, music, or other forms of expression that help others feel seen and understood in their own struggles and triumphs. Rogers himself evolved throughout his career from focusing primarily on individual therapy to working with groups, organizations, and even international conflicts. His later work included facilitating dialogue between groups in serious conflict, demonstrating how the same principles that foster individual healing could be applied to heal divisions between communities. This expansion of his work reflected his growing recognition that personal and social transformation are not separate processes but part of the same movement toward greater wholeness and authenticity. For sensitive souls navigating a sometimes harsh world, this connection between inner work and outer change offers a meaningful framework for engagement. Your sensitivity doesn't have to be a source of pain and isolation. It can be channeled into creating the very conditions of empathy, understanding, and authentic connection that would make the world less harsh for everyone. This doesn't mean denying the very real challenges of being highly sensitive in our current culture. There will still be environments and relationships that feel draining or overwhelming, boundaries that need to be maintained for your well-being, and times when you need to withdraw to restore your energy. But seeing your sensitivity through a Rogerian lens can help transform it from a burden to be managed into a gift to be shared, in ways and at times that honor your own needs and limits. Perhaps most importantly, Rogers' approach offers a path to self-acceptance for those who have often felt out of step with a world that seems to value very different qualities than the ones that come naturally to them. Through the practice of extending to yourself the same unconditional positive regard, empathy, and authenticity that Rogers identified as healing in relationships with others, you can begin to heal the internal divisions created by a lifetime of trying to be someone you're not. This self-relationship, how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself when you're struggling, how much space you allow for your authentic feelings and needs, forms the foundation for every other relationship in your life. As you learn to be more accepting and compassionate with yourself, you naturally become more able to extend those same qualities to others, even when they differ from you. And as you become more authentic in expressing your true thoughts and feelings, you create space for others to do the same, gradually building relationships characterized by greater depth and honesty. This ripple effect of personal growth leading to relational healing, leading to social change, was at the heart of Rogers' vision for how a more humane world might emerge, one transformed relationship at a time. If this message has resonated with something inside you, if you felt a spark of recognition in these ideas, I invite you to join me on this journey of exploration and growth. This channel is a space dedicated to applying Rogers' profound insights to the everyday challenges we face in a complex world, not as quick-fix solutions or superficial advice, but as a deeper approach to understanding ourselves and creating more meaningful connections with others. Here, we honor the wisdom of Carl Rogers not as dogma to be followed, but as a starting point for our own discoveries about what it means to live authentically and relate to others with genuine presence and care. Unlike many sources of guidance that tell you who you should be or what you should do, our conversations here will always respect your inner knowing and your unique path. If you feel drawn to continue this exploration together, please subscribe and consider turning on notifications so you'll know when new reflections are available. Think of this not as just following a channel, but as making a commitment to your own emotional well-being and growth. I'll be here consistently, offering perspectives and creating a space where your sensitivity is seen not as a weakness to overcome, but as a profound capacity for living deeply and connecting meaningfully. Let's discover together how the wisdom of Carl Rogers can help us navigate our complex world with more authenticity, compassion, and hope. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Rogers' approach to human nature was not merely optimistic. It was deeply grounded in his extensive clinical experience and research. Over decades of working with clients and studying therapeutic outcomes, he observed again and again that when people experienced genuine acceptance and empathic understanding, they naturally moved toward greater self-awareness, self-acceptance, and more satisfying ways of living. This wasn't wishful thinking, but a consistent pattern he documented throughout his career. For sensitive individuals who may have been made to feel that their natural way of being is somehow problematic, this evidence-based affirmation can be particularly meaningful. It suggests that the problem lies not in your sensitivity itself, but in environments that fail to recognize and value the important qualities you bring to the world. One of the most powerful aspects of Rogers' work is his recognition of the deep human need for authentic connection. In a world increasingly characterized by superficial interactions and digital communication, many people, particularly those with sensitive temperaments, experience a profound loneliness that can't be addressed simply by having more contact with others. What we hunger for is the experience of being truly seen and understood, of connecting at a level beyond social performances and carefully managed impressions. Rogers understood that this kind of authentic connection is not just a pleasant addition to life, but essential for psychological health and well-being. Without it, even those surrounded by people can feel profoundly isolated. For sensitive souls, this need for depth in relationships can sometimes feel like an impossible dream in a culture that often values efficiency and entertainment over genuine presence. You may find yourself feeling lonely even in social situations, hungry for conversations that go beyond surface pleasantries but unsure how to create them without appearing too intense or demanding. Rogers' work offers validation that this longing for deeper connection isn't a personal quirk or weakness, but a fundamental human need that many others share, even if they're less conscious of it or less willing to acknowledge it. Creating these deeper connections begins with your relationship with yourself, your willingness to acknowledge and accept your own authentic experiences and needs, even when they differ from what seems normal or acceptable to others. As you become more real with yourself, you naturally become more capable of being real with others, creating the conditions where genuine connection can emerge. This doesn't mean every relationship in your life will transform into one of depth and authenticity. Some people may not be ready for or interested in this kind of connection, but by bringing more of your authentic self to your interactions, you create the possibility for meaningful connection with those who are open to it, gradually building a circle of relationships where you can be fully yourself. Rogers' emphasis on listening as the foundation of understanding others is particularly relevant in our current cultural moment, where debate and persuasion often take precedence over genuine dialogue. He developed a practice called active listening, where the listener's primary goal is to understand the speaker's experience as fully as possible, setting aside judgment, advice, or the preparation of counterarguments. This kind of listening is a gift that sensitive individuals are often naturally equipped to offer. Your attunement to emotional nuance, your capacity for empathy, and your genuine interest in others' inner worlds make you a potentially extraordinary listener in a world where such listening is increasingly rare. Rather than seeing your emotional responsiveness as a liability, you might reconceptualize it as an ability that allows you to offer others a kind of understanding they rarely receive elsewhere. This doesn't mean you should use your capacity for emotional attunement in ways that deplete you or cross your own boundaries. Part of developing a healthy relationship with your sensitivity involves learning when and how to engage it, and when to protect yourself through healthy distance or boundaries. But within appropriate contexts and limits, your natural empathy is a gift that can create profound connection and healing, both for yourself and others. Rogers' trust in the human capacity for growth extended beyond individual healing to include a vision of how society itself might evolve toward greater authenticity, respect for diversity, and peaceful resolution of conflicts. He believed that the same conditions that foster individual growth, unconditional positive regard, empathy, and authenticity, could transform groups, organizations, and even international relations if applied with commitment and skill. This societal application of his principles became increasingly important in his later work, as he facilitated what he called encounter groups and large-scale workshops aimed at building understanding across different cultural, political, and social divides. For sensitive people who often feel overwhelmed by social conflict and division, Rogers' approach offers a framework for engagement that honors your natural values while providing a way to contribute to positive change. Rather than hardening yourself to participate in combative approaches to social issues, you can bring your authentic sensitivity, your empathy, and your desire for harmony to create spaces of dialogue and understanding. This might look like facilitating conversations in your community, workplace, or family where different perspectives can be heard with respect, or simply modeling a different way of engaging with those who differ from you. Listening deeply before responding, seeking to understand rather than to convince, and staying connected to your authentic reactions without being controlled by them. One of the most beautiful aspects of Rogers' legacy is his emphasis on the uniqueness of each individual's path. He didn't offer a standardized set of steps to follow, but rather a set of conditions that allow each person's unique growth process to unfold naturally. This respect for individual differences extends to his recognition that there's no one right way to be in the world, no ideal personality type or set of characteristics that everyone should strive to embody. For sensitive people who have often felt pressure to conform to more extroverted, competitive, or emotionally restrained norms, this validation of diverse ways of being can be profoundly liberating. Your quiet thoughtfulness, your emotional depth, your careful attention to others' needs. These aren't deviations from some ideal human template, but valuable expressions of human diversity, each with their own gifts and challenges. This doesn't mean that growth and change aren't possible or desirable. Roger's approach encourages a process of becoming more fully yourself, not a static acceptance of wherever you happen to be in your development. But this growth moves toward greater authenticity and integration rather than toward conformity with external standards of how you should be. For sensitive souls, this might mean developing greater resilience and boundaries while still honoring your fundamental sensitivity, rather than trying to eliminate your sensitivity altogether. The process Rogers described as becoming a person, moving toward greater authenticity, self-trust, and integration of all aspects of oneself, is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. He observed that as people grow in these ways, they tend to become more fluid, more present in the moment, more open to experience, and more trusting of their own organisms as guides for living. Rather than becoming more rigid or certain in their views, they embrace the complexity and continual unfolding of life with greater ease and curiosity. For sensitive individuals, this evolutionary perspective can be particularly helpful in counteracting tendencies toward perfectionism or harsh self-judgment when growth feels slow or uneven. The path isn't about reaching some ideal state where you never struggle with your sensitivity or where every environment feels comfortable for you. It's about developing an increasingly accepting and nuanced relationship with all aspects of your experience, including your sensitivity, allowing yourself to continue evolving in ways that feel authentic and life-giving to you. This kind of growth doesn't eliminate pain or challenge. In fact, Rogers noted that as people become more authentic and open to their experience, they often feel both joy and pain more deeply. But there's a fundamental difference between the pain that comes from denying or fighting against your authentic nature and the pain that comes from engaging fully with life's inherent challenges while remaining true to yourself. The former creates a sense of inner division and depletion, while the latter, though sometimes difficult, ultimately leads to a greater sense of wholeness and vitality. Rogers' approach reminds us that the capacity for growth exists not just within individuals, but within relationships themselves. As we become more authentic and open in our connections with others, those relationships can evolve in ways that better support the authentic unfolding of everyone involved. This mutual growth process creates what Martin Buber, whose work influenced Rogers, called I-thou relationships, connections characterized by mutual respect, genuine presence, and the recognition of each person's inherent value and mystery. For sensitive souls who thrive in environments of depth and authenticity, creating and nurturing these kinds of relationships becomes not just a personal preference, but an essential aspect of well-being. This might mean becoming more discerning about the people with whom you spend significant time and energy, gravitating toward those who appreciate your sensitivity and depth, rather than those who make you feel you need to be someone else to be accepted. It might also mean taking the risk to be more authentic in existing relationships, allowing them the opportunity to evolve toward greater depth and mutuality. Not all relationships will be capable of this kind of evolution, and part of wisdom is recognizing which ones have that potential, and which might be better limited or released. But for those with the capacity for growth, your willingness to show up with greater authenticity and to extend empathic understanding can create a transformative space where both you and the other person can become more fully yourselves. Rogers' deep respect for each person's autonomy and inner wisdom challenges us to reconsider how we approach helping others. Instead of positioning ourselves as experts with solutions to others' problems, his approach invites us to create conditions where people can discover their own solutions, drawing on their intimate knowledge of their unique situations and needs. For sensitive individuals who often naturally attune to others' emotions and may feel compelled to try to fix their pain, this perspective offers a more sustainable and ultimately more effective way of being helpful. It suggests that the most profound way you can assist others is not by taking responsibility for their problems or telling them what to do, but by creating a relationship characterized by deep listening, genuine acceptance, and authentic presence. This doesn't mean never offering information, perspective, or even suggestions when they might be helpful, but it does mean offering these in a tentative way that respects the other person's right to determine what resonates for them, rather than from a position of knowing what's best for them. This approach not only honors others' autonomy, but also protects you from the exhaustion that comes from trying to solve problems that aren't yours to solve, or taking emotional responsibility for others' choices and experiences. By focusing on creating quality of relationship rather than providing solutions, you offer something far more valuable, a space where others can connect with their own wisdom and capacity for growth. As we navigate an increasingly complex and often divisive world, Rogers' emphasis on deep listening and genuine dialogue offers a powerful alternative to the polarization that characterizes so much of our public discourse. Rather than approaching differences with the goal of convincing others we're right, his approach invites us to listen first and deeply, seeking to understand the underlying needs, values, and experiences that inform different perspectives. This doesn't mean abandoning our own values or perspectives, but rather engaging with differences in a way that allows for the possibility of mutual learning and evolution, rather than mere debate or defense. For sensitive souls who often feel torn apart by conflict and polarization, this approach offers a way to engage with important issues without either hardening yourself into rigid positions or withdrawing entirely from difficult conversations. It suggests that your natural inclination toward empathy and understanding isn't a weakness in addressing challenging social issues, but potentially a strength, one that allows you to build bridges across differences in ways that more combative approaches cannot. This doesn't mean tolerating genuinely harmful viewpoints or behaviors, but rather approaching the people holding those views with a curiosity about what has led them to their current understanding, creating a space where genuine dialogue and potential change become possible. In a world that can indeed feel increasingly harsh for those with gentle souls, Rogers' approach offers not just comfort, but a revolutionary perspective, one that suggests your sensitivity isn't a flaw to overcome, but a capacity to be valued and directed wisely. Rather than trying to harden yourself to fit into environments and relationships that require you to be someone you're not, his work encourages you to seek and create contexts where your authentic self can be expressed and valued. This doesn't mean isolating yourself in a bubble of like-minded individuals or avoiding all challenging situations. Growth often requires stretching beyond your comfort zone and engaging with differences, but it does mean honoring your fundamental nature rather than fighting against it, and making conscious choices about where and how to engage, based on a compassionate understanding of your own needs and limits. The world needs people capable of deep feeling, authentic expression, and genuine connection, perhaps now more than ever. By embracing rather than apologizing for your sensitive nature, by learning to channel it in ways that contribute to your well-being and the well-being of others, you not only create a more satisfying life for yourself, but potentially contribute to the kind of cultural shift that would make the world less harsh for everyone. This is the promise of Rogers' approach, not that you can avoid all pain or challenge, but that by becoming more fully yourself, you participate in a larger movement toward a world characterized by greater authenticity, empathy, and mutual respect. If this message has resonated with something inside you, if you felt a spark of recognition in the ideas we've explored together, I invite you to join me on this continuing journey. This channel is dedicated to applying Carl Rogers' profound insights to the everyday challenges we face, offering not quick-fix solutions, but a deeper approach to understanding ourselves and creating more meaningful connections with others. Unlike many sources of guidance that tell you who you should be or what you should do, our conversations here will always respect your inner knowing and your unique path. If you feel drawn to continue this exploration, please subscribe and consider turning on notifications so you'll know when new reflections are available. Think of this not as just following a channel, but as making a commitment to your own emotional well-being and growth. I'll be here consistently, offering perspectives and creating a space where your sensitivity is seen not as a weakness to overcome, but as a profound capacity for living deeply and connecting meaningfully. Let's discover together how the wisdom of Carl Rogers can help us navigate our complex world with more authenticity, compassion, and hope. I look forward to continuing this journey with you.